Uh, Jewish law. Jewish law, mitzvot, commandments. If you were to go up to a random person on the street, or maybe think back to your Hebrew school days, or you talk to a relative or friend, if you were to ask them what they think, or maybe what you used to or still do think about Jewish law, you might, or they might think of it as self-denying, austere, full of limits that you have to put on yourself, right? There are dietary restrictions, and you don't work on Shabbat. There are even folks who won't rip toilet paper on Shabbat. It has to be pre-ripped. Fasting on Yom Kippur. These are, it's a real thing. These are definitely limits. They are indeed limiting. And sometimes that's a good thing, right? Having limits can be good, setting boundaries. This is, for example, Rabbi Daniel Gordis. He's a contemporary rabbi. He talks about keeping kosher. He says, one function of kashrut is to make every act of eating a sacred act, to prompt us to think about what we are eating. Because we are limited and we have to think about it and say a blessing and think about, is it kosher or not, the act of eating is elevated. And so that's just one example, right, of how limits can set boundaries, limits can bring awareness and intentionality. But the question is, can those limits go too far? Can we set too many restrictions or bounds? And the Torah, our tradition, seems to say yes. And we see that based on, or really elaborated on, our Torah portion, Naso. So in our Torah portion, Naso, we see a form of, in some ways, asceticism with the Nazir, or the Nazarite. The Nazarite is someone who takes a vow for a certain type of abstinence for a religious or spiritual purpose. So they don't drink alcohol, they are not supposed to come near a corpse, and they don't cut their hair. And they do this as a pledge to God. They separate themselves, they consecrate themselves, they say, I'm going to go above and beyond for you, God, right? I'm taking on extra limitations for you. Now, the Torah establishes these rituals and rules for the Nazarite, and then we actually see it in practice. The later books of the Tanakh, of the Bible, say that Samuel, the prophet who helped bring in Saul and then David as king, he was a Nazarite. And then Samson, famously, right? He didn't cut his hair, and he had his strength until Delilah cut his hair, but it wasn't really about the hair. But he was a Nazarite. And yet, while the Torah lifts up the Nazir, the rabbis actually push back. And we see this in a few different places. Rabbi Gunther Plaut, a contemporary rabbi, says that the sages had a wariness of asceticism. Rambam, famous medieval rabbi, says, almost sarcastically, aren't the Torah's restrictions sufficient for you that you have to impose upon yourself additional restrictions? Right? He's saying, we have the Torah. Is that not good enough for you? And in fact, the Torah says that at the end of the vow of the Nazarite, they're supposed to bring a sin offering. And so Rambam says, why a sin offering? Because the Nazarite exaggerated. He went too far. And so he sinned by overdoing it. And so we see in our Jewish tradition a rejection of asceticism, of going above and beyond to be too austere, too limited. Yom Kippur, we fast for 25 hours. Don't tack on an extra day. The day is enough. Kosher, okay, you don't mix meat and dairy, no pork, no shellfish. Some people do go a little above and are vegetarians, but you're still supposed to enjoy eating. Don't just eat like twigs and berries or something, right? It's supposed to be food. It's a reminder not to go too far to the extreme. I find that this is a healthy reminder for us in today's world, where we might want to, try the newest dietary fad or health craze. And if we're doing it and it's working and we're staying healthy, fine, but sometimes people can go too far and obsess too much over it, right? Or politics. Our tradition says to engage in the world with politics, and yes, we should march and protest and vote, maybe even make it our careers. I heard people talking earlier about working on the Hill. But if that's all we do, if we only march and protest and read the news nonstop and worry about everything going on, then we miss out on hobbies or enjoying nature or, a tasty burger, whatever it might be. So taking a vow, finding a cause we believe in, like the Nazarites, this is a noble endeavor. And let us not stray into extremism or asceticism. Let us find balance. And we say, Amen. Take a few moments to think about the balance we can find in our lives.